Okay, folks, welcome to week 3. A couple of announcements before we get started. Our first test, on our algebra review we've been doing, will be next week. So please prepare for that. As we get closer, I'll put an announcement on Google Classroom as to how that test will be formatted and what system we'll use. Okay. So when will your homework and quizzes be due? I hope we're kind of getting in the groove of things, but I still am getting this question sporadically. We need to make sure that if our class is on Monday, if you're part of the Monday Google Classroom, you know everything is going to be due Sunday at midnight. If you're part of the Tuesday class, everything is going to be due Monday at midnight. And Wednesday class, everything is due Tuesday at midnight. Thursday class, everything is due Wednesday at midnight. This gives everyone a full week to complete all their material. Now, turning off Google Classroom notifications. A lot of you have been receiving just loads and loads of announcements from Google Classroom, so we need to make sure that we know how to turn that off for our email to make our email more useful. Okay, so I'm going to go over to Google Classroom. Doesn't matter which one you're in, you're just going to click at the 3 bars over here at the top left. Click on that. You're going to scroll down to settings. Okay, settings. Clicking on settings, or settings now, you can scroll down to classes you're enrolled in. The one you really want to click away from, work and other posts from teachers, right here. Pardon me. Clicking this off, so it's gray, is going to stop you from receiving those 7 emails every class period from your teachers. Okay, and I think that really just makes your email too populated, and it makes it less useful. I need to be able to send you an email, type you an email, and you to recognize that email and open it up. Okay, so turning this off is going to be important. Okay, cool. Now let's move into our actual topic. So our topic for today, we've been solving equations for a couple of weeks now. Now we need to see what happens when we have variables, or the letters, on both sides of the equal sign. So you see we have a variable over here and a variable over there, a variable here, and on the other side of the equal sign, another variable. Okay, so we need to see what happens there. As I think most of you would notice, we should start with our distributing. That was our first step before this lesson. It's going to be our first step now. So we're going to distribute this. Gives us 4 times 8 is our 32. And 4 times negative 2a is minus 8a. There we go. Okay. And we bring down our equal sign. And we haven't touched this side, so we're just going to write it as is. Exactly what we see. Plus 23. Everything we just moved down. Now, we notice that the problem here is there is a's on both sides. Now, there are 2 options here. You could try to move the 8a over here or the 5a over there. Now, to make it easier, I'm going to choose to add 8a. I could do it either way, but I'm going to choose to add 8a. And the reason I'm choosing to do that is if I add 8a here, of course, negative 8a plus 8a cancels out. All this cancels out. And if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. So I add 8a over here. And we notice that if I bring down my equal sign, which I always do, I always bring down my equal sign, negative 5a plus 8a gives us 3a. And now our coefficient, the number in front of the variable, is positive. It makes the math just a little bit easier. So that's why I picked the 8a. But again, it'd be correct either way. And I'll bring down my 23. I haven't touched my 23 yet. And my 32, which is positive. Nothing in front of it means it's positive. Now, it's just become a 2-step equation. We're trying to isolate our variable, isolate our variable. Isolate means to get by itself. So I subtract 23 from both sides. Of course, it cancels out here. And 32 minus 23 is going to be 9. 9 equals 3a. There's a little imaginary multiplication sign here, so I'm going to do inverse operations and divide. Divide. And we have a equals 3. but we're trying to get in the habit of writing the variable first. A equals 3. And that's our final answer. Let's try one more example together. So here we have a negative sign. We know that our first step is going to be distributing again. We have a negative sign here. Now this negative sign is really a -1. So we're going to distribute a -1. Okay, this gives us -1x. -1 times x is -1x, and -7. And we haven't touched this -8x, so I'm just going to bring that down. -27, haven't touched this side, so I'm just going to bring it down. Now, over here, we recognize that we have some like terms we can combine. So we're going to combine like terms before we do anything else. These are the exact steps we used last lesson. We first distributed, and then we combine like terms. This gives us -9x minus 7. When we combine these two like terms, -1x minus 8x, a negative minus another negative gives a larger negative. We haven't touched this side, so we're just going to move it down. Okay, now we see that we have only one variable on both sides. That means we're ready to start moving the variables around. Again, we could add 4x and throw it over here, or we could add 9x and throw it over here. What we're going to do is we're going to add 9x. Again, either way works, but I prefer this way because it gives us a positive coefficient. These cancel out, leaving just -7. And 4x plus -4x plus 9x gives us a positive 5x. It makes the math, in my opinion, just a little easier. -27 plus 5x, because our 5x is positive. It was a -4x, add 9, 5x. So now we just have a two-step equation. We're going to add 27 to both sides. Add 27 to both sides. My work is getting sloppier, unfortunately. I'm using a different mouse. Equals 20. -7 plus 27 equals 20. I hope that you folks are not guessing on these adding, subtracting, that you're using your number line. Number lines can be found online. If you came into class, I gave you a physical one, but they're everywhere online. And x equals 4. Okay. Moving on. Let's see. Okay. Now we have two unique situations. So we're going to solve these problems just like we did before, but we're going to end up with very unique situations. Okay, so we need to practice the skills we just learned. So let's practice those. We're going to distribute to begin with, right? Just like we did in the previous problems, gives us -16 plus 4p equals -20 plus 4p. Ooh, yikes, that got bad. Okay, let me see if I can fix that real quick. As you folks can tell, I'm home today. Trying to make this video, and I have some very loud puppies down there. Okay, let me shut the door real quick. So I had a conversation with the dogs about quieting down a little bit. Okay, moving on. So now that we have just one variable on both sides, now we can subtract 4p and try to put them together. But again, this is a unique situation, and we're about to see why. We bring down this equal sign. We notice that 4p minus 4p cancels out. 4p minus 4p cancels out. Now we bring down our -20 and our -16. Now, I'm going to read this to you real quick, and hopefully this registers. -16 equals -20. Now, how do we feel about that? I hope that we notice something's very wrong with that. -16 and -20 are two different numbers. So how could they possibly equal each other? Now, the solution we're going to get from this is no solution, no solution. And you write that down, no solution. The reason we write that down is because, this mouse is not working well. Okay, no solution. We have no solution written up here in better. The reason we write that down is because our work told us -16 equals -20. tells us that that does not make sense. That is not correct, which means there is no number that you can plug in for p to make this true. There is no solution for p. So this is absolutely wrong, which means there's no solution. Okay. Now, the other unique situation we're going to check out right now, we're first going to distribute, giving us negative 20 minus 4k, and we bring down this 4 because we haven't touched it, is equal to negative 16 minus 4k. Now, we can combine like terms. We have two constants here. They're constants because they do not have a variable. 4 minus 20 gives us negative 16 minus 4k equals negative 16 minus 4k. Now, very similar situation, eh? We had the 4p, the 4p. So we're going to add 4k and add 4k. And we notice that the k's disappear. Both of them do, leaving just negative 16 equals negative 16. Now, this right here tells us that negative 16 equals negative 16. I mean, that is true. Absolutely, that's true. Negative 16 is the same number as negative 16, so they're equal. What this tells us is that any number that you plug in for k will make this true. There's no k's left, and it's very true. So any number you plug in, if you plugged in 22 for k, this would be true. If you plug in 1/2 for k, it would be true. You plug in 1,000,005, it would be true, which tells us that our answer is all real numbers. Our solution is all real numbers because this will always be true. All real numbers is our solution. Okay. Okay, we have an upcoming test. This is a list of topics that we've covered so far. Integer operations, that's just adding and subtracting, multiplying, dividing integers. Equation and expression vocabulary. So we've learned a lot of vocabulary this year so far. Evaluating expressions, that's plugging in our values for an x or a y or a variable, plugging it in. One or two step equations. We know what that is, just solving one or two step equations. Some word problems. We worked on word problems and using your calculator. Okay, so please make sure we're practicing using our calculator as well. Now, under multi-step equations, we've learned how to distribute and solve equations. We've learned how to combine like terms and solve equations. And we've learned how to deal today with variables on both sides and how sometimes that could lead to no solution or all real number solution. Okay, and that'll be it for today's cool. That'll be it for today's lesson. Keep working hard and email me with any questions.